Hello, good morning, welcome. It's time for my town hall this Wednesday, and let me go turn on a few more lights so you can see me a bit better. And we'll get started. This town hall is going to be a special election one because we're in the final stages of the U.S. election. And as you know, it's already been going on since a year and a half, because the Democrats and Republicans want to start already a year and a half ago. And so everybody's really tired of hearing about it. And a lot of time and money has been wasted on it. And so we need election reform, period. This is not acceptable. And, the states, for whatever reason, I don't want to blame the states, really. It's the Democrats and the Republicans. They've taken control of our country. And they are making sure that everybody else keeps out, that they get all the best jobs. And this is unacceptable. So we need to take the country back. And we need to change the laws. We need to probably hold a convention, constitutional convention, and we need to rewrite our constitution a little bit. This is not the first time the two big parties have taken advantage of our system and geared it to an advantage to themselves. So we have amendments that we had to make, that they had to make, that we as a country had to make to get them under control. And they're still out of control. So now they have these voting machines that have software. And I even found out that Pennsylvania spent $500,000 on these things during their primary. And they have another $500,000 that I guess they're going to be spending on the federal election, on this election, on the general election, I should say. And they bought software. So, I don't know. I know that apparently there's money for these events, for elections, and I don't mind it for the general election, but I do mind it for the private election that happened in Pennsylvania that was just for the Democrats and the Republicans, and maybe the Libertarians and the Green Party, because that's really unacceptable. You cannot use federal funds for private clubs to have their parties, is basically what it was. So that's called stealing, and I'll be working on that issue too. But the point is, it's not just Pennsylvania, it's everywhere. And it's the Democrats and the Republicans again. It's not even the states, but it's how they've manipulated our country and manipulated their state into making certain laws and doing certain things that are restricting the U.S. citizens and our rights. And this is why our federal government, the way it's set up, is so important, because we are the defenders of you, the citizens. And, I'm talking as though I'm already in the federal government, but I'm not, so I would like to be put there so that I can help you. The problem is that not every state is recognizing me as a presidential candidate. But I did ask, in California, I said, well, what happens if enough people vote for me? Then you will have to count those votes, and the person agreed with me. So I think we have one of two ways. I don't know what to say. Um, I think as a U.S. citizen, you have a right to vote for people who are running for any office. If they declare themselves running, it's your right to vote for them. The states, I mean, let's put it this way, the Democrats and Republicans have no right to stop you from voting for people who are not a Democrat and a Republican. They don't have that right, but yet they claim it. They say, oh, you're not official. Oh, you didn't do the rules that we set up, so no, you're not official. I just have to declare that I am running. I should not have to do any more. And any other citizen out there running for an office also just has to declare they're running. You don't need to be in a party to run for an office. You have to fulfill the requirements according to the Constitution. And I'm not sure what limitations are set up on the state side, but I think some of that information is also in the U.S. Constitution. But anyways, mostly it's about age and time in your state. You know, you have to be a certain resident if you're going to be representing your state in the Senate, or if you're going to be working in your state in the legislature there, you have to be from that region, which makes sense. You know, you need to know your region. You need to know what's going on, and a lot of other rules and regulations are not really necessary. So I can definitely see age, and I can definitely see length of residency in that particular area. So yes, those are two very good reasons to decline or say somebody is not, like we don't want someone from Norway coming here and saying, oh, I'm going to be, mayor of my town, but I never lived there, but I'm going to buy a house and be living there, or I'm going to buy a house in another area and be mayor of that town. So that is not acceptable. There has to be certain amounts of, you have to be a citizen, you have to be a resident for, 1, 2, 5, 10, 14 years, depending on the job you're going for. And you have to be a certain age, at least an adult, you have to be 18. Other ages are, like 25 and 27 and 35. So anyway, there are rules that make sense, and then there are rules that don't make sense. And there are rules that are specifically meant to keep out competition. And we don't accept that in other industries. So why do we accept that in our politics? Is it really fair that the Democrats and Republicans have taken over the country and keep everybody else out? No. So my first thing is vote for anyone. Anyone else. This is my recommendation. Other than a Democrat and a Republican. Just anyone else. It doesn't matter who they are. I mean, they should be up for the job that you're going to put them in for, but vote the Democrats and Republicans out. We cannot change the country if we keep giving them the jobs. So that would be my first suggestion. But the other thing is, to vote or not to vote. That is really the question. So supposedly, in most businesses, you need a quorum of people, members, whatever, involved to make a decision. And if in an election there's not a quorum, then nothing passes. So, I don't even know, did we really have a quorum last election? Back in 22 or back in 2020, did we have enough people voting? We have a real percentage of people in our country who are adults who are eligible to vote. Was there enough to call it an actual vote? The other thing, too, is really strange, is there's so-called a popular vote, right? But a popular vote is, so for president anyways, is about, it's voting for the person. But in California, you don't vote for the person, you vote for their electors, which is really bizarre. And even as I was trying to tell California I was running for office, they're like, well, we don't need anything from you. We need it from the electors. So I just, we're not really talking apples and apples. We're talking apples and bananas. And, I don't know what the states have done. It's just bizarre. So when they talk about the popular vote, Californians don't even vote for a president. They vote for electors. So this is just mind-boggling to me. But anyways, I don't have a California ballot, so I don't know what it really looks like. Sometimes how can I say it? They have the names written. Sometimes it's blank. Anyway, so there's the traditional ballot when you go in to vote, wherever you're going, if you're going to go. So that's the other thing, to vote or not to vote. If you don't vote, then they can't mess with your vote. On the other hand, we heard recently, I think a guy from Minnesota went to vote, and they told him that in early voting, somebody else voted for him. So then somehow, after checking, they decided they would let the real man vote. And apparently there are two people with the same name in the same town or neighboring towns or whatever, and they're going to count both votes. So that's a little suspicious. But anyways, don't know how that can happen, except fraud. But anyway, so if you walk in the door, then you're a body, and then they can change your vote and make it whatever they want it to be, just to let you know. So the question is, do you even want to walk in the door? If you do walk in the door, my recommendation is vote for anybody other than a Democrat and Republican. Otherwise, we're just going to see the same gridlock. We're going to be sending money to war. That's not pro-life. I don't care what you pro-lifers say. Money for war, for killing other people in other places, is not pro-life. Those people have the right to life too. So if you want gridlock, if you want lies and manipulation, then vote Democrat and Republican. There might be one or two people that are actually good. There are good people in both parties, but sadly their voices are not being heard because of all the other bad ones. So my suggestion is actually don't vote. And if you can become unregistered, if you're not already unregistered, that would be my real recommendation, is don't vote. Don't walk in the door. Don't let them have your body to change your vote. Although, like I said, we've got people running around who are voting in early voting, and they're voting for other people. And then when the real person walks in the door, they can't vote because their vote was already cast. This is also going on for people living abroad. Sadly, I don't think your votes get counted at all. I'm really sorry to say that. There's probably somebody in every town wherever you were once registered they're voting for you, someone else. So your vote is just going to be thrown out, as we learned with my experience, that I apparently voted in every election while I was abroad, but I know for at least 2 times I did not. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's best to vote your conscience, vote for whoever you want. As you know, I'm running for president, so you can vote for me. Even if they say you can't, you can, and let's see what they do with that vote. It's a rebellion vote. On some ballots, there won't be a space at all for me. If that is the case, if you really want to vote for me, but they don't offer it, ask them if they have something called a provisional ballot. And if they say it's the same ballot, that could be, but sometimes they have a whole different ballot for the provisional ballot. And then you could possibly vote for me or other people that are not on their list, or whatever the case may be. Every state is doing it differently, so it's really complicated. And everything, but the word is provisional ballot. So supposedly, if you cast a provisional ballot, this is another thing. I mean, if you can prove you're a U.S. citizen, or if you're registered and you're doing provisional, or whatever the case may be, if you are a U.S. citizen and you are voting, they have to count that vote. They cannot not count it. Period. We are a country of laws, and that is your liberty to have your vote counted. It's not to register to vote. It's not to fill out the ballot and leave it there for somebody to decide if they're going to count it. No, it's to have your vote counted. Period. No board can take away your vote. If you are a U.S. citizen and you prove you are a U.S. citizen, whether you're registered or not, your vote needs to be counted, period, as a U.S. citizen, period. No questions. It needs to be counted. It needs to be recorded, period. So don't let them intimidate you. Don't let them say, oh, we're not going to count that. No. If you can prove you're a citizen, and if you vote, it has to be counted. Don't let the Democrats and Republicans tell you no. So, yeah. So, with that said, if you are registered and everything is good, then your vote should be counted. If you are unregistered and you want to vote, you need to bring your passport or your birth certificate. Those 2 things, or your green card papers, your naturalization papers. Those 2 things show that you are a U.S. citizen. If your name has changed from your birth certificate, if you're using your birth certificate, if you have a passport and the name is correct and everything, then you're fine. But if your birth certificate, if you bring that in and your birth certificate is incorrect, or I shouldn't say incorrect, if your birth certificate has your maiden name or some other name, then you need to bring the document, like your marriage certificate or your name change certificate, that shows that you changed your name at some point to what it is today. So that you do have to bring if your name has changed from your birth certificate. And, yeah, what do I want to say? If your name has changed from your birth certificate, you need that document that says that you changed it, that it's official. Then you also need to prove that you're living where you're living. So a driver's license does that. I guess a lease on a rental apartment, although renting is not necessarily guaranteed that you're really living there. But yeah, you have to find out what documents. So this is my suggestion, because also if you are not registered, then you're like me and you need to call your county clerk or go to their website, and you need to find out where you have to go to place your vote. So because the Supreme Court is not acting on my my lawsuit with them, not yet. I mean, I hope that they do. Hey, Supreme Court, please, let's do this so we can have a real election. But the real thing is that if you go to the wrong place and vote, that vote will not be counted, or there's a chance that they'll let you vote, but then they're going to manipulate it or cancel it out some way if it doesn't go in the direction they want. So my suggestion is you contact your county clerk and you say, hey, I want to vote. I need to know where I have to go. My name is blah, blah, blah. I live at this address. So it has to do with where you're living. And they will tell you where you go, whether it's a library, a church, which I don't agree with churches being involved, because separation of church and state. No. So a library, a school, that's okay. Churches are not federal buildings. So if you're going to a church, well, you're in deep trouble already. Then the county clerk, I don't know where all people vote in the United States. So anyway, you tell them your address, they'll tell you where you go, and then you show up there and you do your voting there. Because the governments, the Democrats and Republicans, don't want informed public, they print out all these flyers, but they leave them in their offices. So only if you go to like the office will you find out what you have to vote on. They no longer mail these things out. I don't know if they ever did, but they do not inform you and me, the citizens, of what we have to vote on. Sometimes they publish it in the newspaper, but we know newspapers lie all the time. So why newspapers are not what they once were. They once had integrity, but today they don't. So there's no need to, the government does not have the right to send their information to the people through the newspaper, period. That needs to stop. It needs to stop. It's stupid. So the newspaper does not work for the government, and the government does not work for the newspaper, but the way our government is run by the Democrats and Republicans currently, so therefore they use the newspaper because, they like to work hand in hand with fraudulent news. So anyways, what we need to do is they are supposed to inform you, and they're not. So that's the first problem. Then the second problem is you're going to walk in the door and you may have to vote on whether you want to build a bridge or whether you want to, expand the school, or whether you want to add something to your constitution of your state. And sadly, they're not informing you. So you might want to ask for a sample ballot so you know what you have to vote on. And you have to make sure that they're giving you all the questions that you're going to be voting on. Because maybe there's a second ballot that you have to do. I don't know. Who knows? But contact your county clerk. That's the best place to start. They might tell you, go online to this page and you can find out where you have to vote. Well, tell them, I want to know right now, and just tell me where I have to go. And then you can also double check that online for, just to make sure that they're accurate. But they need to do their job. They need to inform the public of what we're voting on, and they need to count our votes. and they're just not doing it, and it's ridiculous. So, but it's the way the Democrats and Republicans have been, and they've been controlling our country, and we have to take this away from them, because they have abused our country and our rights and our citizens, and it's enough. So anyway, if you do go and vote, these are various things that might be there to vote on, like ways to vote for a write-in candidate. So for me, so first there will be like a list of names, and normally you just color in the circle next to it to indicate you want to vote for those people. But if you want to vote for a write-in candidate, then you have to look for the blank space, and it's usually under the list of presidents or under the lists of what do you call it, Senate or mayor or I don't know, whatever, legislature. There'll be a list of names, and then down at the bottom there'll be a blank space. Usually there will be a blank space with like a dot. Sometimes it'll say, like for president and vice president, it'll say that. If it's for legislature, it'll say that. If it's for governor, it'll say that. And then sometimes it's on one side, sometimes it's on the other, and sometimes it's completely blank. So just look for those. And then you can write in, of course, for president, you can write in my name. And I don't have a vice president, so you can either leave it blank or you can put in somebody for vice president. Now, how it works on the presidential level is that you can only vote for people who are running for vice president. So there's a list of vice presidents right there in front of you. Or if you don't want a vice president from that list or whatever, you can also just write your own name in, or you can write in someone else that you know that you would like to see as vice president. So you can do both. If you write in like another presidential name, we'll say like a Donald Trump, so Susan as president, Donald Trump as vice president, that won't work because he's in the system as he's running for president. So he can only be voted in as president. And then, so you can either leave it blank or you can put somebody in there, but I don't have a vice president choice, but you can choose my vice president. As president, anyways, you have to work with everybody, and I usually can work with everybody, so really pick who you want. Sometimes there'll just be one line and it'll just say president. So you don't have to provide a vice president at all. You can just put my name in. And then in the blank space, you can just write in my name or somebody else's name. So as far as who to vote for, if for president, you should just vote for whoever you really want, okay? I think I would be a great presidential choice, but if you choose to vote for somebody else, that is your right. You vote for who you want to see as president, period. You vote for who you want to see as governor. You vote for who you want to see as senator or House of Representatives or legislature or whatever, mayor. You vote for the people you want. I just highly recommend that we don't vote Democrat and Republican. Vote anybody else but those, because they've gotten us into this mess. The way we elect is not working. And, modern technology is pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. But there are times where we need old-fashioned pen and paper and transparency. And that's not what we have nowadays. We have computers getting involved, and they're making changes and manipulating our votes. So, folks, we got huge problems in our country, and it starts with the election. We can't have integrity in our country unless we have a election that has integrity. So it starts here. Um, yeah. Knowing that they've sent now early voter people out to vote for you and me and all of us, to steal our votes. These are probably paid people. I guess that's why they're begging for money still. It might be good to at least attempt to vote, to see if they say, oh, somebody voted for you, and then report that to the FBI. Report all cheating to the FBI. It's not acceptable. It's our country, and it's time to take it back. So, I don't know. To vote or not to vote? That is a question. I'm also there trying to figure it out. Should I vote? Should I not? I don't know. Let's see what happens. The Supreme Court still has my lawsuit, and I hope that a ruling would happen on it, and then we can have a real vote and get away from this ridiculous thing. So, yeah, when they say, I guess both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been going online saying, oh, you got to give us money. It's crucial. It's going to make a difference. Even at this stage, we need money. So, yeah, they need money to pay people who are going to go vote for you in early voting. They have to pay those people. And then you go in, and then suddenly you can't vote because somebody used your name. That's what they're doing now. The other problem is, for anyone else listening, so our territories that we own, which we have, probably a good couple of million people living on them, they can't vote from their territories for president. So usually for a presidential election, they will move into the continental U.S. somewhere. I heard there's a lot of people living in California now who weren't living there before. And it's a temporary residency. They come for about 6 months, they vote, and then they leave. And because they're U.S. citizens, they can come and vote in the continental U.S. I don't know how it all works, but it really might be just time to either declare you are a state or declare you are not a state, and remove these citizens from this situation. They should be able to vote where they live, whether it's Guam or Puerto Rico. They should just be able to stay home and vote, because what that does too when they come into the country is they completely change the dynamic of the neighborhood just for a temporary vote, and they can sway the big states one way or the other. If they feel somebody's too popular in a state, which they find out through early voting, then whatever, they move to that state. And it's not acceptable. It's another way of manipulating. I mean, I love our territories. I lived on one for 2 years. But it's not really acceptable to go in and sway a vote like that. So, anyway, we got big problems. And election fraud is the first big problem. Election manipulation. Your right as a citizen is to vote for who you want to vote for, regardless of whether they're recognized by the Republicans and Democrats or not. And your right is to have that vote counted as you wrote it. My right is also that, but it's also my right to declare myself a presidential candidate, which I have now done. to every state. They all know I am a presidential candidate. There's no question. So, whether they see me as official or not, I mean, whether the Democrats and Republicans see me as official or not, that's their problem. But I am official. Period. And I am here to change our election system, to bring back integrity. So, with that said, I don't know, to vote or not to vote. That is really the question. And I guess if we got people using other people's names during early voting, it might be a good idea to vote. So, I don't know. I will say that if we don't vote, and if they don't have enough people voting, or if they find out that this same person has voted in like 10 states, if they look, I mean, I guess they're using buildings that don't have cameras is what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Early voting was buildings without cameras so that you couldn't find out if people were voting in more than one place. That's probably what's going on. So, anyway, yeah, buildings without cameras. Okay. So, how can I say this? If not enough of us show up to vote, then they don't have a quorum of voters, and then they have a fraudulent election. They don't have a legitimate election according to the laws. So this is, I mean, so many ways that we have been lied to over the past decades. And that's plural, decades. Yeah. Oh, shocking. Not good, folks. Okay. So that's where I am. Provisional ballot is if you are not registered, they might want you to fill that out, and you're going to have to bring your documents to prove who you are and where you live. Okay? If you want your vote counted. If you don't want it counted, then just go in and fill out the forms and vote, and don't provide any documentation, and then that's also okay. They will just manipulate your vote anyways. Okay, so I hope this helps. I know I'm rambling a little bit. I tried to organize my thoughts, but sometimes as I talk, I get also new connections, which then make me realize, oh, well, there's this other way and another way of doing fraudulent behavior. So just like I said, my recommendation, vote anybody but a Democrat and Republican. Because, yeah, if we want more lies and fraud and manipulation, if we want more wars and more money going elsewhere, then vote for the two big parties. But if you don't want that, if you're tired of the gridlock, if you're tired of the lies and the manipulation, then vote for anyone else, anyone that you think would be good for that position. And then let's see what happens. So I guess that's it for now. I wish us all good luck and a good election, whatever that means. I wish us integrity. I wish us people who actually do what they're supposed to do, which I have not seen from my Secretary of State. He did not provide me with any information about what I have to vote on. So If your state is like my state, if you have no information on what you have to vote on, shame on them. All right. So thanks for stopping by. That's the end of the town hall for today. My name is Susan Maud Buchser-Lochocki, but my official name currently is just Susan Maud Buchser, but you can write in Susan Buchser. So SUSAN BUCHSER. That's all you need to write in if you're going to vote for me. My website, where you can find out more about my lawsuit and other places where you can find out information about me, that would be SUSAN4USA.com. That's Susan, the number 4, USA.com. All right. Until Sunday, have a good time. Bye for now. My phone is giving me a hard time. Excuse me.